Hi, this is Shauna, the CEO and founder of Fuel Talent. One of the things I have loved most in my 25-year recruiting career has always been the stories that people tell. Stories of leadership, career choices, company ideas, and team building. My inspiration for starting the What Fuels You podcast came from being curious about people's lives and wanting to help share their stories. What path brought them to this place? What decisions did they make that led to failures and successes? Who influenced those decisions, and what lessons were learned along the way? I hope you enjoy the What Fuels You podcast. Colette Courtion is today's guest on the What Fuels You podcast. Colette is a founder of 3 venture-backed consumer health and beauty-related startups. Her most recent company, Joylux, was founded in 2014 and is a global femtech company that has developed a range of light-based devices and products that help with women's intimate health. She's an incredible supporter of women, innovator, consumer marketer, award winner, and mother. Welcome, Colette.
Thank you, Sean. I'm so glad to be here.
I'm so glad that you're here. We're going to start with rapid fire. Okay, you ready?
Oh my gosh. Hold on.
Okay, hold on. Who's your hero?
Oh, well, my dad, of course. Unfortunately, he passed away 8 years ago, which is really sad because now I have a beautiful son, and I, wish more than anything that they would have met. But he is definitely my hero.
I love that. I just got back from a trip with my dad.
Cherish every moment.
I do.
Good.
I do. What's a skin product that you can't live without?
Retin-A.
Oh, interesting.
Yes, because
like Retin-A or just any retinol?
Retinol-based product, depending on what where you are with your skin. But at the end of the day, all that other crap that we put on doesn't really do anything. But Retin-A or a retinol-based product does, and it helps regenerate the skin cells, and that's what we need on definitely on a monthly basis.
I have it at home, and I just forget to use it all the time.
Best anti-aging product. All that other stuff is just hocus pocus.
Okay, good to know. Who is a woman you most admire?
Oh, well, we were just talking.
You can't say your
No, we were
mom.
just talking about this. RBG, hello.
I know.
I mean, what she has done for women is amazing. And today I look at the progress we've had, but I see that we have so much farther to go. And to see her leadership, and she's still hanging on. Just give us a couple more years.
I know. We do need to bubble wrap her for sure. Is there a book that you most often recommend?
I do. You're going to laugh when I say this, coming from the woman that's never been married. But I find myself often talking about the book, The 5 Love Languages.
Oh, I love that book.
Yes.
What's your love language?
Definitely
Acts
words
of service?
No, not at all. It's actually words of affirmation and touch.
Okay. I will give you both. I will
Thank
touch you
you.
across the table and tell you how amazing you are. You are amazing. That's why you're here. Interesting. I think that's a really important book. I totally agree. If you could travel anywhere in the world, where would you go?
Oh, I'm heading to Morocco any day now.
Wait, did you book it yet?
Not yet.
Can I go with you?
Exactly.
I'm serious. That's
I know.
on my list.
End of this month, probably. But I just got back from there, and I absolutely fell in love with it. And I cannot.
You went?
Yes, I was there a month ago, and I cannot wait to get back.
And who did you go with?
A friend, and we went there kind of not knowing what to expect, and so we didn't spend a lot of time there. But I fell in love with the beauty of the people, the architecture, the.
Did you buy any rugs?
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Rugs, pillows, argan oil, you name it.
Oh, man. I know. I need to get there. Okay. 2 more questions for you. What is your special ninja skill at work?
At work.
Outside of work. Okay. I saw that face. I'm like...
My ninja skill, I think it's totally my ability to multitask to a level that is extreme and really pisses people off because I'll have 10, 15 things in my brain that I'm working on, and I'm, okay, where are we on this? Where are we on this? And,
I think it's great. I have the same. That's kind of one of my
You
skills.
kind of have to be if you're a mom.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And also just running a company, I think you have to have a lot on your mind.
Exactly.
All the time.
All the
and you have to be able to
time.
balance it all.
Yeah.
Okay. Last question is a fun one. Beyonce or Lady Gaga?
Ooh, I danced to both of them at a fundraiser for raising money for Plymouth Housing for Homeless. And I had the privilege of being Beyonce and Lady Gaga. And I have to say, I kind of liked Lady Gaga.
Lady Gaga rules. Have you seen her movie? 5'2" or whatever?
Oh, no, not that one. I thought you meant A Star is Born. Where I'm absolutely in love with Bradley Cooper.
Yeah.
I love her voice and Bradley Cooper by my side. And, I've been to heaven.
Yeah, exactly. And aren't you kind of like hoping that they get together?
I totally.
I like
it would
am
be
in love
such
with their
a disappointment if they didn't.
I'm in love with their dynamic.
I know. It's like the ultimate love story.
You have to see the documentary on her.
Okay.
She is the bomb.
All right.
She's amazing. I already loved her, but then I saw her documentary and I love her.
She doesn't give a I have to choose my words here, but she just does what she wants.
Enough.
Yeah, she just does what she wants to do.
Yeah, awesome. I haven't really even talked to you about the format of the podcast, but a lot of it is just my curiosity and like how people become who they become and what drives them and fuels them along the way. So I've obviously known you for 30 years, 25 years? A really long time.
It's been 5 years. We just graduated high school.
I've known you for a really long time, but I left Seattle, so I lost touch with you. And what you've done since college has been incredibly impressive. I know you grew up here in Seattle.
I did.
What would we have found if we had met you back then?
Interestingly, I was a lot quieter back then, and I think it goes back to I lacked confidence. And so I was less sure of myself. So because of that, I didn't speak up. I didn't engage as much. And so I think part of that experience is what fuels me today, because I see what difference it is in people's lives when they are confident, when they feel good about themselves, when they can express themselves. And so what motivates me and why I do a lot of what I do is to help women feel more confident about themselves, whether it's the beauty or health, which I'm in today. Ultimately, confidence is a game changer for women.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree. And tell me about your upbringing, though. Your dad, you mentioned, was your hero. Were your parents married when you grew up?
Actually, they divorced when I was young, but the key to a happy family was that they stayed friends. Mm-hmm. And so we celebrated all the holidays together. And to the day that my father passed away, my mother was right by his side. So that's very
amazing.
Enduring. They just weren't a great, married couple, but they
and you have
remained
siblings?
Very good friends. Unfortunately, I lost one of my sisters. Yes. Now 16 years ago. So that was devastating. But I have an awesome older sister, and
so you're the middle?
I was the youngest.
You're the youngest, and you lost.
The middle child, sister. So we are all 7 years apart. So my older sister is 14 years older than me. And so growing up, we weren't close. But now that we're adults, we are inseparable. We spend a lot of time together.
That's amazing. And would they have said, and your parents and your friends, even though you were shy, like I see a little something in Colette?
Oh, yeah. So that's the funny thing. I was shy if you didn't know me, but back home I was, just this crazy, wild, funny child. They said it was in my senior book, the parents were allowed to write something about their child. And my parents wrote, "You always made us laugh."
Oh, that's awesome. That's great. So you were like the little fireball.
Exactly.
That's always the baby, right? How old were you when you first recognized that you had leadership skills?
Yeah, great question, because it didn't happen until I went to work for a local company, Mavron, and worked under Dan Levitan. And in fact, you and I were talking, you just did a podcast with him. And up until that point, I was, again, pretty quiet and reserved and didn't speak up. And what I realized in that experience is that I actually had a lot to contribute, and I knew as much as anybody else. And I kind of, was forced to, in an environment that was very high energy. The world of venture capital is, cutthroat. You got to, get the best deals. You got to please your investors. And so you kind of had to jump in to survive. And so that's when I think it was the turning point for me getting my voice.
Oh, interesting.
And speaking up.
Yeah. Well, you went to UW. That's where we met. And how did you choose UW?
Oh, Truthfully.
You were just like, you just walked in. Well, back then it wasn't like it is now.
Well, right. I mean, well, it was a great school.
No,
but
I know, but like
wasn't-
the process of applying to
I
college
know.
wasn't like, I have a
No.
few friends and people have been on the podcast who are like, yeah, I just kind of walked in.
Yeah.
I mean, Jane Park, obviously you know
Yes.
Jane Park. Her story of applying to college is crazy. You have to listen to the podcast, but
Yes.
it's different now.
Yeah,
So
no,
how'd
it's
you
definitely
choose your
different. Truthfully, it was because there was a boy. And I
Oh.
followed a boy. So actually, my first year, I went to UPS,
Okay.
but was in love with a guy at UW, and I was spending all my time driving between Tacoma and Seattle, and so I transferred. But I really wanted to go out of state to school. I wanted to go down to California. I wanted to pursue the entertainment world. So in fact, I ended up going to Pepperdine for grad school.
I know, Malibu.
Yeah.
I looked at Pepperdine for undergrad, and that's a beautiful campus.
It's so
not even really a
beautiful.
campus, just like it's like a country club.
It is a
How did you
country
choose
club.
Pepperdine, and why did you get an MBA?
Again, when I was in college, and I just didn't feel like I had the tools. I wasn't quite ready to really tackle the world. I felt like there was so much more that I needed to learn and do, and so I chose a master's program, and I was on the younger side. They typically recommend that you know,
Get a
have
couple years of
experience.
experience. You went straight from
So
undergrad.
I went straight.
Did someone give you that advice? Because I feel like there's not many people who did that.
No, this was totally on my own. I paid for it. It was my
With what money?
Oh God, student loans. Oh, painful. Entering the workforce with 80,000 of debt. Back then, 80,000
Yeah,
of
now
debt.
it's
Now
like
it'd be
80,000 a year.
Exactly. It'd be 500,000 of debt. But, you know, I did it, and thank God I did, because that really woke me up. That gave me a reality shock.
What did you think? Did you think then that you wanted to go into entertainment?
I did. I was always been fascinated with the entertainment world. I, from a young age, was part of theater. I did a lot of acting, probably because that gave me the opportunity to use my voice and speak up, but in a protected environment, because I was being a character. I
Yes.
wasn't being me. But I also realized I did not have what it would take to be a star or a movie or a TV
It's not
actor.
too late. It could be like Colette 4.0.
Exactly. Or that or my dancing,
Yeah,
right?
or you're dancing. We could just go on the road. We'll go to
Exactly.
Morocco.
Perfect.
Start dancing.
Yeah, so I figured I would tackle the entertainment world on the business side.
Interesting.
So that's why
And
I
so
went.
during that time, it sounds like you were pretty focused and pretty driven. And did you ever have a rebellious phase, or a phase where you were like,
No.
I just kind of want to get married and have kids?
No. One of the things, going back to my dad being my hero, is that he instilled in me values. And from an early age, he always said, I don't know if I believe this today, but his motto was, love many, trust few, paddle your own canoe. And so because of that, I was really motivated to be self-sufficient and driven to take care of myself and pursue a career as opposed to motherhood. And so I always had a big master plan. And so the career, what I chose to get a degree in was starting with economics, because I knew that was a good fundamental base for business. And then I went on and got my MBA and specialized in finance, because I knew that was important to have the understanding of how P&L works, how accounting works, all of that. Ultimately, though, my passion and my heart is how you communicate with customers, the marketing side, building a brand. But I knew I had to get the fundamentals in, build that strong foundation.
And so, and you graduated at Pepperdine, did you come right back to Seattle?
I did.
And what made you decide to do that instead of just staying in
I know.
LA?
I wanted to pursue a career in entertainment. And guess what? On the business side is just as tough on the acting side.
So what was your first job out of?
So I lucked out. My last quarter, I contacted Pepsi to do a financial thesis on the company, and I contacted the division here in Seattle, because my family was here, so I was still going back and forth. And I ended up writing like a 200-page thesis on Pepsi, finances of Pepsi. And I presented to them, not with the intent of getting a job, just like you've given me the opportunity to interview you and you opened your books for me and here's the final report. And they were so impressed that they offered me a job. And it was a very good job. And coming right out of college, looking at, $80,000 worth of debt, I kind of said, okay, I have to go for it. So
Yeah.
I
What a great foundation. Pepsi.
Yeah.
Incredible. How long were you there?
Just almost 4 years.
Yeah.
And that led me to Starbucks because at the time, Starbucks had announced they were expanding into Europe. And being a Sagittarius, I like to travel and explore the world. And so I felt like it was a wonderful company for me to pursue to get that international experience.
And did you?
No. Isn't that funny? I ended up.
But you learned a lot about coffee?
I did. No, what actually happened is that was when Dan Levitan started Mavron, and I was reading about it in the Wall Street Journal. I had just started Starbucks. I was there no more than 6 months, and I was like, oh my gosh, every person's dream, if you've been in finance, is to work in venture capital. So I contacted Dan, and his whole premise behind the company was it was focused on consumer brands.
I told him that. I said, it's so sexy. He's like, well, it's only sexy depending on the cycle of where the economy
Exactly.
is. But I mean, everybody wants to I'm a consumer.
Well,
so.
And that's the whole thing. Women are what we represent 80% of consumer. And so my pitch to Dan was, you need to hire me because I'm a woman and I'll understand what, deals are best because ultimately I'm the consumer.
Women are really well represented at Mavron and in the portfolio.
Yeah,
it's impressive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So then you went there and realized maybe...
Oh, it was intense. He was, I tell Dan to this day, I say, I learn more from you than in, anywhere. It was an intense time because it was at the burst of the .com. Remember back in, where everything was going great and all of a sudden it just fell apart.
Yeah.
And so it was a really tough time. Ultimately, I wanted to get back into building, brands and companies that.
And you ended up at Starbucks for 8 years.
To Starbucks, and that was an incredible journey because I had the ability to create and innovate in a company that had such a strong foundation. And so what I did had nothing to do with coffee. It was all these
It's customer
things.
loyalty.
Yeah. So the Starbucks card, that was my baby. Creating the loyalty program, working on the first wireless network. I mean, Starbucks today gets a lot of credit for all the innovation, but we started that back in the early 2000s, working on the technology wasn't quite ready at the time, but we had the vision. We were thinking of all these great applications and what we can do, and eventually the technology caught up with what we wanted to do.
That's amazing. What a cool company as far as how far it's come. And when you ultimately left Starbucks, did you have an idea of what you wanted to do with Calidora? Is Calidora your first thing?
Yes. In fact, the idea came from my experience at Starbucks. So one of the cool things...
Well, first tell us about Calidora. Like, what is Calidora?
Well, let me go back to how I got to Calidora.
Yeah.
So at Starbucks, I was tasked with going and finding new business opportunities for us to invest in that were outside of coffee. So to leverage the infrastructure that we had, but to build new business. And I was introduced to the former president of Revlon, who had started a skin clinic in New York City. And I went and I absolutely fell in love. And the idea behind it was taking what has been traditionally done in dermatologist's office, which going to the doctors is never a fun experience, but bringing that in a very consumer-friendly spa-like environment, but having it be the medical aesthetics, the traditional medicine, not massages, not fluffy facials.
Yeah.
It's using lasers, it's using Botox, it's using chemicals to really help with the anti-aging process. So long story short, we did not invest in the company. It did not make sense for Starbucks to make that type of investment. But I said, this is something I could get really passionate about. And so I decided to do it on my own.
And how did you go about
And
telling
that's,
them and getting
yeah,
funded?
and that's what started the whole birth of Calidora. Is my boss at the time, Ann Sanders, she didn't take it too well. We had a really great working relationships, and we had done a lot of cool things. So it was, I think it was
hard.
hard.
It's like a breakup.
It is. It
Yeah.
is. And I had such admiration and respect for her. So that was tough.
Yeah.
But I started, and at the time when I started for Seattle, maybe Los Angeles is a different story, but Seattle was not a beauty market. We joke, but Seattle was Patagonia
Oh,
and
yeah.
Birkenstock.
White socks and Birkenstock.
Exactly. And I'd like to think I had something to do with that change, because what we ended up doing was building out what became today is the traditional medical spa, and they're all over the country. I think there's something like 10,000 of them.
How many were there when you started?
Oh, not that many. But what we did is we really took it from a traditionally a medical focused environment to one that was really consumer friendly. So I took all the best things I learned at Starbucks and how you care for a customer and how you create this incredible brand and this experience, and I applied it to this new business model. And, the first year, we had our struggles, but out of the gate, people were really embracing what we were doing. And by the time I ended up selling the company, we had become the third largest purchasers of Botox in the country.
Are you serious?
Yes.
I didn't
So
realize that.
Allergan, the makers of Botox,
They're loving
they
you.
knew us by name. The president knew us by name because we were buying so much. But what I felt was such a major accomplishment is that Seattle, in terms of beauty, wasn't even on the map.
Yeah.
The Northwest and beauty and Botox, forget about it. And by the time we left, we had really created...
How many stores did you have by the time? The 8?
We had 8, and unfortunately with the 2008 recession, we had to close 4 in the California market. But the 4 here in Seattle were still going strong. In fact, they were growing during that really tough time, because it goes back to confidence. And what we were doing is we were giving women who were in their 40s and their 50s what now had become a very competitive work environment, employment market, right? Because people were losing their jobs. So in order to compete, you're competing with 20-year-olds. So a lot of women, we helped kind of give them that, that beauty back, that anti-aging, that look that built up their confidence. Then they felt that they could compete with the younger, men and women because they felt and looked younger.
Mm-hmm.
So about, giving that confidence, empowering women to look their best.
And who funded it?
Oh, gosh. I had amazing investors, angel investors. I had Fluke VC. So it was our first venture capital.
How much did you raise?
I think just over, now we're going back quite a few years, just over 10 million.
Wow. And so how was that? Because obviously all the talk of women and trying to pitch an idea, and that like 2% of venture funding goes to women. And then on top of it, you add in an industry that men are unfamiliar with. That's who you're pitching to. And now, we can go through all of your experiences are the same.
Yeah. So I have to admit, back then, it was a little easier than it is now. And
why is that?
I think it was because I just was at the right place at the right time, and I had built a pretty solid network. Working in venture capital, I had a lot of connections. The time when we raised money, it was a hot, booming time again. So this was before the financial crisis. It was coming out of the .com burst, so people were looking for going back to investing in traditional businesses, and it just kind of was the right time.
Were you nervous with all the liability that goes into that business, or just understanding, what if somebody gets like a droopy eye, or all the stuff that can go wrong? What if someone gets burnt by a laser?
Yeah, and so what we did to overcome those challenges is that we really put in great training and great protocol. So we over-invested in our staff, because ultimately I wanted to make sure that every experience a woman had would be the top, it would be the best. In fact, at the end of the day, any person, before we allowed them to treat a patient, had to treat me. I figured I'd put my face out there. If they couldn't do a good job on me, then I wouldn't allow them to see patients. And because of it, we had the best of the best. And that meant they were highly recruited. So we spent all this money training and building their customer base. And then they were, everybody wanted to recruit from us. But to this day, the company, which was sold to Skin Spirit, to this day, it is now, I believe, the number one skin clinic and soon to be the number one in the world. They just raised something like $60 million or $80 million.
And how did you decide to sell?
Well, so after the recession hit and we had to close 4 stores, we were looking at a pretty strong business, but it was a 4-store medical spa business. And me personally, from my career and what I wanted to do, I wanted to conquer the world. I wanted to create the next major global brand. And I felt that running a 4-store clinic here in the Northwest, while it was fulfilling in the sense that I was making a difference in women's lives, it wasn't really taking me to the next level. And that's when I looked at, okay, how could I create a product that can scale on a global basis? And so that kind of led me to where I am today and the journey I had over the last 7 years.
Well, you started JeNu, and I know that that's being sold on Amazon, and a lot of people have had a lot of success with it. Was that birthed out of kind of what you saw at Calidora, which is like, let me give this device to people to use at home?
JeNu is an anti-aging beauty tool to help women reduce wrinkles and fine lines around their eyes and their faces. And in Seattle, we had a huge success with a company called Clarisonic, which was the world's first home use beauty device. And they just hit it out of the park. They started in, 2002, ultimately selling to L'Oreal for $600 million. So huge success. It's now sold all over the world. And so I said, okay, that's a business that can scale. It's based in beauty, which is something I'm very passionate about, but it's a product that you can sell. So we looked at, here is and JeNu was not a company I founded. I was actually brought into it in the early stages. It was founded by 2 engineers that had the idea and had the technology, but didn't have the marketing or the consumer experience like I brought to the table. But what I loved about JeNu, it allowed us to build a product that could scale, that could have a positive impact on women around the world. It gave me a great platform. What happened, though, was as we were going through this journey, I decided to become a mom, and that changed everything for me. Because during this journey, I announced to my girlfriends, I'm going to get pregnant. I'm going to become a mom. If I don't do it now, I'll miss the boat.
Did you freeze your eggs, or how old were you when you were?
Oh, I was in my early 40s.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, you hear about women. I just met someone who had a baby at like 50 something.
Oh, I don't know how
changing.
they could do that. I know it's changing, but I just physically wouldn't have the energy.
My last born was born at 39, so I get it.
Yeah.
You're like,
a toddler at 50. No.
Yeah.
But what happened is they sat down with me and we were having a glass of wine. I said, okay, girls, it's time I do this. I'm going to go freeze my eggs. I'm going to do whatever it takes to ensure that I can be a mom someday. And they laughed and they said, okay, well, just be prepared because every time you laugh, you're going to pee your pants. And I looked at them, I said, what in the world are you talking about? And they said, oh, yeah. Part of being a mom is that you stretch out your pelvic floor and you lose bladder control. And that means that you're going to pee your pants every time you sneeze. And no one had ever shared that with me. I just assumed.
It's always one of those things where you don't know until you're in it.
Exactly.
And then you're like, oh. Like the donut that you get after the sit on it.
Exactly. And so I just assumed that women gained weight and the biggest struggle was taking the weight off. But what I did is I went and did my research and learned that women experience so many issues related to pregnancy and childbirth. And then, as that isn't bad enough, we go through age and the loss of estrogen. All these things have a huge impact on the health of our pelvic floor and our vaginal tissue. And so at that moment, I said, wait a minute.
There's got to be something for this.
There's got to be something better. And here I am building a beauty device in a category that is enormous, but oh my gosh, there are tons of beauty devices.
Saturated.
It's saturated. And while our technology was innovative, I'm still competing with billion-dollar, companies. So literally I had a pivotal moment in my career. And I said I could stick with beauty and I love it. And we've got so much farther to go. Or I can reshift my focus into a category that is virtually untapped.
Mm-hmm.
There was no one really looking at these issues and using technology to treat these issues. Everything was so antiquated. It was so outdated. Women kind of were just told to suck it up. You're going to pee your pants. Fine, wear pads. You have dryness. Here, use some creams. But how could we fundamentally change the health of the tissue and the muscles using technology? And that's where I said, I had this
And that was before you got pregnant with Coleman.
Oh, yeah.
Did you do a sperm donor?
Oh, I ended up doing a sperm donor. So what happened is, now I have this idea. So now, but I'm also focused on being a mom. So I went to the Seattle Reproductive and I said, here's where I'm at. I want to freeze my eggs. And they said, oh no, you're too old. Your eggs look really bad. We don't even think you can get pregnant. And I went, what? What?
You're like, here I have been building businesses.
Yeah, what do you mean you're telling me I can't do something? When anybody tells me I can't do something, that just motivates me more. Can't is a word that doesn't exist in my vocabulary. So I said, okay, well, what are my options? And they're like, well, we can try, but we'd recommend that you do an embryo because the chances of a fertilized embryo, so get sperm, get your eggs, freeze that, would be higher than
freeze them together.
Right. So we're freezing an actual embryo versus just freezing your eggs. And so, okay, that meant I had to go find a sperm donor.
What's that process like?
It's like?
I've heard it's fun.
It's like buying shoes.
Right. You're just like flipping through. You're like, I don't know, 6'2".
Exactly.
Where'd you go to college?
Exactly. It's actually pretty funny.
Did you do it by yourself?
I did the searching by myself, but I ultimately took the results that I liked and I sat down with my girlfriends, the same ones that told me I was going to pee my pants. And we literally went through all the potential donors and they gave me their opinions. And ultimately I made a decision. But it's like buying shoes.
Well, of course.
You go in and you say what size you want, what color you want, down, to you. Ultimately, you have your designer sperm.
Did anyone, your designer sperm, you got the designer child. I mean, gorgeous. Oh my goodness. Good job on that one.
Thank you.
Did anyone give you any kind of shit for it or doubt you in any way?
Oh, yeah. My mom being the biggest critic and, just feeling like this wasn't the way nature intended it and what was I doing and I couldn't raise a child on my own. And yeah, it was very tough. I did not have support from her. At the time, my father had already passed, so he wasn't around, although I'm sure he would have loved it. He would have supported me. So it was really tough. And, I have an awesome group of women that supported me.
I can tell from the way you're talking about your girlfriends. They're kind of your ride or die, I've got you type of girlfriends, which can be, I think, pretty much the most powerful thing.
Yeah. I'm sure, though, there were lots of, women out there that were gossiping about me and questioning what I was doing. But you know what? That doesn't matter. What matters is what I want and what I think's best for me and my future. And so, long story short, I started going down this process with IVF, and it wasn't working. I wasn't even getting the eggs to allow fertilization. And when you go through the process, they need at least they need you to produce at least 5 healthy eggs to extract to then fertilize those. On average, a woman produces, 1 egg, and that's all that's ever needed if you're doing it the natural way. But in IVF, you need at least 5. And I was, in some cases not getting 1. If I got one, it wasn't a healthy one. And so 6 months and $50,000 later, they say, this isn't working. And they said, we think you now need to consider getting an egg donor. And I looked at them and I said, well, we are going down this path of IVF, but I'm producing an egg, right? And they're like, yeah, we're getting one egg on a good month. And I said, well, let's just try it the good old-fashioned way. So they looked at me and they said, well, we think you have less than a 1% chance of getting pregnant. And I said,
well, that's 1%. It's not zero.
I actually said it's 50%, because in my world, either things happen or they don't. 50-50. And so they said, okay. So the next month we gave it a try, and I went through it's called an IUI, and they injected the sperm in me. And wouldn't you know it, 10 days, not even 10 days. I knew the minute they did it, I knew that it was going to work, and I could feel I was pregnant. And I was telling my girlfriends, I think I'm pregnant. And they're like, Colette, you don't know. You have to wait 2 weeks. It's too early. And I'm like, no, I can feel it. And I remember doing the first pregnancy test way before you're supposed to, but I was just determined. This was a goal. I was going to succeed. And sure enough, it came back with a faint line. And I knew I was pregnant, and I called, and they're like, nope, you can't come in. You have to wait the full 2 weeks. And sure enough, by the second week, I went in, and not only was I pregnant, my numbers, the hormone levels, whatever, I can't remember today what it's called, it was off the chart.
That's such an incredible story.
It's so great.
What a blessing.
It was such a blessing. And this kid was meant to be.
Were you nervous the whole time you were pregnant?
No. And it was a super easy pregnancy, and it was so healthy. At one point, my OBGYN said, you need to stop coming seeing me, because everything is looking so good. I can only mess you up by, poking and prodding.
Yeah. Oh, that's such a cool story. I didn't know the story.
Yeah.
I love that.
And now I have what hands down has been the greatest thing in my life, Coleman. He and I, so obviously you could tell I'm not married, and I did this on my own.
And do you want to be married or no?
Yeah, gosh, I want a partner. I'd
someone
love
to hang with.
Yeah, I'd love to have a male companion that we can share in the ups and downs of life. And doesn't mean I have to get married. No.
Has it been helpful to meet men now that you have a child and we're on the same page? Because most people our age have kids.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think it's been helpful, because you go in with the right intentions. Like, this is what I have, and you're either going to be supportive or not. My kid and I, there's that song, Just the Two of Us. Mm-hmm. And he and I play it, and we dance around, and we have an amazing life. We are so happy. And sure, I'd love to have a dad or some male in his life. Mm-hmm. But he is surrounded by my friends, his godfather, his uncles. I mean, he has some really great male leadership in his life. So it's not the end of the world.
It's not the end of the world at all. There's every form of family these days. I mean, everything under the sun. Mm-hmm. It's more likely that it's some form of blended family or adopted family or uncles in most families. That's just how it is.
Yeah.
What a beautiful story. I love that. That's really cool. So then, okay, so you have Coleman. Where in that process did you start Joylux?
Yeah, so I had, I resigned from JeNu. They asked me to help sell the company at that point, because I was a major driver of that company's success and future. So I ended up selling the company. And from that, the minute that we signed the papers, the very next day, I started with Joylux, and had raised money early on from an investor who I initially approached about the idea, and he was on board. So that early money came, I don't want to say easy, but it was easier than most people have. Mm-hmm. But now,
were there any competitors?
No. So to this day, we are the world's first home use device that uses energy technology to treat the vaginal tissue, to restore it, to rebuild collagen, to increase blood flow. And so today we are the only company in the world that has done that. There are in-office procedures that you can do that do the same thing, but they're, big lasers and they're expensive. Where we were coming from and why I was so driven is to create a home product, because treating the vagina, let's be honest, it's still a taboo topic. It still makes women uncomfortable. So I wanted women to do it in the comfort of their home, the privacy of their home.
And how do you measure its success?
Oh, well, easily, because we know through clinical studies if a woman leaks less, both using objective and subjective measurements, that's success. So if she struggles with incontinence and she uses our product and 6 weeks later she doesn't leak or doesn't leak as much, that's success. Same with vaginal dryness. If she doesn't experience the dryness or doesn't have pain with intercourse, that's success. And what I love that is that we are literally changing women's lives. We are giving them such a renewed outlook, giving them that confidence. It's different. It's internal versus in my previous jobs, it was about external beauty. But what makes a woman a woman?
It's all connected, mind, body, outside,
it's
inside.
all connected.
Yeah. And so tell me how it's been received. I mean, I'm sure everybody wants to talk to you about it at the parties, and I'm sure everyone's pulling you aside in that kind of, oh my gosh, I'm experiencing that,
So while
are you tired of talking about vaginas?
No. I talk about vaginas every single day. And it's so funny because when we are at a party, when I'm at a party, a cocktail party, I hear it all. And I'm like, you do realize I'm not a doctor.
Yeah.
Well, I could certainly give you my opinions on what's going on.
Well, I'm sure the same thing happened. Like, oh, do I need Botox?
Yeah.
What would you recommend for, laser treatment?
Yeah. But I certainly know enough. And I'm fortunate that I have this amazing OBGYN as my partner, Dr. Sarah De La Torre. And she has certainly helped me get up to speed so that I can speak, as intelligently, especially since I talk with doctors about this every day because we sell through doctors' offices.
Yes, that's what I was going to ask you. So you go straight through doctors' offices, and so you have salespeople who are calling in almost like doing medical sales?
Exactly. I mean, ultimately, that's what it is. We sell to doctors, and then those doctors sell to their patients.
And they sell it for $3.99?
$4.95.
$4.95. Okay. And are there does insurance cover this?
Not yet. That in itself is a whole big process. So we'll eventually get there. But like the analogy is a lot of women today, they're spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars out of pocket to treat these issues. So if you look at incontinence, the average woman who experiences stress incontinence is spending anywhere between $700 to $1,500 a year on panty liners or incontinence pads. A woman who experiences dryness, who has a prescription for an estrogen-based cream, her out-of-pocket copay is $60 to $100 a month. So again, that adds up to, well over or close to or well over $1,000 a year. So women are spending a lot of money out of pocket today. And so for our technology, even though we don't have insurance yet, to ask a woman to pay, $495 to literally change the health of her tissue, to us, that's really quite a value.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And so it was featured on Goop.
Oh, yes. So,
and how did that impact business? Because I'm a Goop follower.
Oh, good. In fact, I don't know if you saw on their Instagram last week. So that was a situation where they came to us. So we sell primarily through doctors. And, but ultimately, women really want to buy online because of the private nature of this issue. And we do have our website, and women come to us today and buy on our website. But we really wanted to build up that credibility and that endorsement from the physician. So if you walked in and you saw that your OBGYN was recommending it, then you are more likely to want to try it. And so that's why we've been focused on that channel. So someone at Goop went into their doctors down in Beverly Hills, one of the doctors that carries our product, and this doctor was raving about it. And so they called us up and said, we want to carry your product. And I said, oh, you mean like next to the vaginal jade egg that you just got so much, grief for? And what they had done because of that is they brought in a whole scientific team where they really get down to the nuts and bolts of a product and the claims that the product makes and the evidence they have to support those claims. And so while they said they wanted to carry us, they actually took us through a 6-month process where they evaluated all of our material, all of our marketing claims. They looked at the technology, our clinical studies. They had their lawyers look at everything. And so by the time that we launched with them, they felt really confident that we were a real product that
they could stand behind. And what is this jade? I don't think I heard about this. Is it just...
So a couple years ago, they sold, and I think they actually still sell the product. It's literally a jade egg. So it's a piece of jade in the shape of an egg, and they call it, I think, the yoni egg. And you insert it. And the idea behind it is that if you squeeze, it helps build your pelvic floor muscles. So think of it as resistance, like a weight for your vagina. Well, they took it a step farther than what it is. And if they had just left it at that's what it does, like they shouldn't have gotten any grief because there's hundreds of products like that. But what they did is say the mystical powers of jade will enhance your vagina's spiritual, I don't know. So they got a lot of grief and a lot of, people were making fun of her and it became a, late night television.
Oh, I didn't see it.
Yeah.
Now I'm curious.
People questioned her credibility as it relates to real medical issues.
Yeah.
And so that's why they brought in this whole scientific team.
Oh, interesting. And so what type of culture are you proud of building at Joylux? And is it consistent throughout the companies that you've led?
I'd like to think so. One of my tenets as a CEO is to hire really competent people and let them do their jobs and not get in their way. So I really think of people as my partners, and I'm there to provide them with the tools and access to the tools to help them achieve success in their roles. But I really hope that they can do what they want and run with it. So I try to stay out of their way. When they're not performing, then I get in there and in there with them. But in general, it's really a culture of teamwork, and everybody knows what is expected and what role and how they contribute to the overall, success of the company.
And is there a word that you would use to describe yourself as a leader?
Wow.
It seems to me I'm getting the word like visionary.
Oh,
you really are.
Yes.
You seem to have quite the vision. Are you also detailed?
Less detailed, much more big picture. In fact, funny you should say that word because on our website, we're about to launch with a photo of the team. And I'm really proud that 90% of the people working for me are women. And so we are definitely a women-focused, women-led company. And so of this picture of their team, the word that's above me is visionary.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, it really feels like it just in talking to you. And I've obviously someone who's started companies, you have to have a vision, but you just seem to be an innovator also. Like you're really ahead of these industries. Do you have a coach or a mentor?
Good question. I have not any formal coaches or mentors. I have a great group of investors that I often talk to on a regular basis, whether it's every day or at least once a week. And they've been very helpful. These are primarily women who've had great successes in their careers. And so they can provide a lot of feedback, insights, lessons learned. So that's been
Anyone
very
that you
helpful.
can just be 100% vulnerable with, though, that doesn't have a vested interest?
No, not yet. Not yet. That's the tough part.
Are you okay being vulnerable?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's where we go back to, gosh, if I had a great partner, maybe that's something I could share.
Yeah. When you're feeling just like, oh my God, I had a shit day.
Yeah.
And I need to.
Life isn't perfect and I'm not perfect.
Do you feel successful?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I look at what we've accomplished. And one of the things is so we have this technology in a market that has not seen innovation in decades. And we're going about it with a business model that is fairly new. I mean, to ask your OBGYN to sell a product, there's not a lot of them doing that. Yet here we are a year later from launching, and we're sold in roughly 250 doctors' offices, and doctors that are some of the best and brightest in their field. And we have convinced them that we have a technology solution that is safe, effective, and works really, really well and is changing lives. And to get these minds, the brightest minds in the field of women's intimate health, to be part of our company says a lot. So yes, I'm so incredibly proud of what we've accomplished. We're still at the beginning, and we have lots of we lots of room to grow. And
is the goal to just get in every single doctor's office?
I mean,
obviously,
but
to have market share.
Success to me. So we're in 250. When we have hit 3,000 doctors, I will know that we've arrived. And then to hear the life-changing stories that we hear from women, it is so inspiring when a woman takes time out of her day to email us or call us and tell us how this device is changing her life.
That's awesome. I love that. And so are you feeling balanced as a working mom?
No. And tell me, this is where I need help. How do I get balanced?
Well, we're going to find you some help.
Exactly.
How do you balance? I mean, do you have...
It's really tough.
Here's what I think. I think you need to get an au pair.
Well, I do have a nanny.
live-in.
I have a nanny, and she has been so incredible. So when we talk about balance, I look at it, and there's kind of 4 areas. There's your work, there's your children, there's you personally, and then there's your partner, the lover in your life. And I'm doing a really good job of work and my kid. The other 2, not so much. So that's where I say, yes, balance for me has been a little challenging.
And are you clear on what you're looking for?
Oh, yeah, very clear. Someone that I'm a really independent woman, and I want someone that's going to embrace that independence and give me the freedom to fly and do the things I need to do, but come together and share time and special moments, but is perfectly secure in their own self-being to allow me to shine and fly.
And probably someone who's passionate in general about something.
Yes, passionate about life, passionate about something, because I'm a very passionate person. It goes back to what I said earlier. I'm a Sagittarius. We're we're fiery, passionate people.
I thought that was us. We're the Scorpios.
Oh, well,
right
Scorpios, you got to be careful. You see, Scorpios like to sting.
Only if you really cross them. My leash is very long.
Okay,
I'm extremely loyal. And so how do you like to spend time outside of work and when you're with Coleman or with your friends? What is like the perfect day? If you could balance it all.
Yeah. So balance a little bit of my time with my son. We love to ride bikes. We love to go on walks and hikes. Last night I came home from work and we spent an hour and a half doing arts and crafts. He's very loves the arts and so that's been fun for me. So that was a really nice evening. Now, I enjoy my time with my girlfriends too. So having a glass of wine, getting caught up, having a nice dinner outside, that's important too. So I think I do a pretty good job of taking that into account.
And if you were to take better care of putting you first, what would you be doing?
Hitting the gym a little more often than I do.
I'll make you come with me.
Okay.
The problem is I like to eat and drink too, but
yeah, see, that's where I don't have balance. I love having a glass of wine, and I certainly love my Mexican food. Thanks to my Coleman's nanny, who makes the best Mexican food ever.
Oh, that's so dangerous. That's my favorite. So this is a little bit more of an intense question, the last couple questions. But is there something that you would like to see change in our world or, in the next 10 years as far as kind of the world that we're leaving for Coleman and my kids and everyone else's?
Well, certainly there's two areas. So first, let's talk about, and not about Coleman, but more about women. I think we as a society have we've progressed so much, and we've really come far when we talk about RBG, Ruth, and how much she's helped women have equality and the things that she's done. There's this unconscious bias, and we still live in a world where it's dominated by white men. And so while we're making good headway, I'd still like to see more opportunities for women. So just on the funding side, if I may share a quick little story, women, as we know, because we read about it, we still get less than 2% of the funding. And I've done a great job of surrounding myself with very awesome investors, and they've certainly put a lot of money into the company, but they're all angel investors. The institutional money isn't there yet, because when you go to get institutional money and you walk into a venture capital firm, it's typically, to this day, still dominated by older white men.
Mm-hmm.
And so when they see me, they don't quite know how to react. And then I add the word vagina on top of that. And then they're like, what?
Everyone's like, ruh-roh.
Yeah, their face gets red. They turn the other way. And, I won't hear from them, even though this is a huge market, a huge business opportunity. And so, and I don't think anybody's trying to be intentional about it. I think that we try to align ourselves with people that are like us. And that's where that unconscious bias comes in. So what I've now done is when I go to pitch these groups, I'll bring in my CFO, who is a 65-year-old white male. And I get a totally different reaction. It's me talking. He's just literally standing there. Do you address
the elephant in the room? Like, just come in hard and say, no pun intended, but just come in boldly and say, here's the deal, guys. I'm going to talk to you about vaginas.
Oh, yes. That.
Like everybody needs to let it.
Yeah. No, I do.
And they still turn red and still turn their cheek.
Yeah. This whole market of women's health and women's intimate health is enormous. Mm-hmm. But we need access to the right capital to be able to continue to innovate and grow and reach women. So what I'd like to see, going back to your question, is, I'd like to see a world in which women's companies and women CEOs and founders have a lot more than 2% of institutional money.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm getting the sense that I will probably know the answer to this question, but the final question is, what fuels you?
Making a difference. Making a difference in the world, whether I can do it one vagina at a time,
one face, one vagina,
or through my kid Coleman. I know this kid is destined for great things. He is a remarkable child at 4 years old, and I know that it was meant to be. I'm not really a religious person, but I believe things happen for a reason. And him coming into this world, despite the odds, was for something. And I don't know what that something is, and maybe I'll never know. But Coleman was destined to do great things, and so I'm really excited about that. But going back to the work that we're doing at Joylux. I've even talked about the company. The company's name is Joylux.
It's so funny. I was like, what is the name of the company? Have we said that? Now, I know the name, but I'm thinking, do the listeners know that it's called? Well, you said it.
Joylux. And we have two products, the V-Sculpt, and that's available outside the United States. And then V-Fit is available here in the U.S. So getvfit.com. And so I know that our product can make a difference in women's lives, in their partners' lives, because you have now a more confident woman, And so that's what really motivates me.
I love that. Thank you for being on the podcast.
Thank you.
So fun
Shauna,
to
you're doing
hang
such
with you.
amazing things by helping
Thank you.
bring people onto your show. And
It's been
very
really
inspiring.
fun, I have to say. And I'm getting to know people better. Like, we just got good time together. When was the last time we did this?
I know.
Right?
It's over dinner, I think, last
I
summer.
know.
So we
Yeah.
need to do more of it. But thank you
For
letting
sure.
me share.
Add in the wine. And then the gym.
Yeah. Speaking of, where's the wine?
We need it. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the What Fuels You podcast. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes, Google Podcasts, or Spotify, and follow us on social media to keep up with the latest news and episodes. You can also contact us at podcast@fueltalent.com to provide feedback, ask questions, and share topics or guests you would like us to cover in the future. We hope you feel inspired by our guests and that we have helped fuel your day. Join us next time for another episode of What Fuels You.